What happens when Hollywood's most charming golden boy walks onto a daytime television stage expecting laughter, and instead finds himself cornered by a question that cuts far deeper than anyone anticipated? Before we go any further, if you love explosive celebrity moments, behind-the-scenes tension, and dramatic stories that feel like you're right there in the room, make sure you subscribe to Stage View, hit that like button, and drop a comment right now. You won't want to miss what unfolds next. The studio lights are already blazing when Tom Holland steps out onto the set of The View. The applause comes fast and loud, the kind reserved for someone audiences feel they've grown up with. He flashes that familiar, almost boyish smile, the one that's launched 1,000 interviews and deflected 1,000 awkward questions. He waves, nods, thanks the crowd. On the surface, everything feels routine, safe, controlled. But something in the air feels different today. Tom adjusts his jacket as he takes his seat. He glances across the table, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, Sarah Haynes, Alyssa Farah Griffin, and then at the center, Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi sits comfortably, arms relaxed, posture casual, eyes sharp. She's smiling, but it's not the warm, easy smile Tom has seen in past interviews. It's measured, observant, like she's already reading him. Tom tells himself it's just nerves. He's here to promote a film. A serious one this time. Not a superhero suit. No wisecracks. A performance he's poured himself into, physically and emotionally. He wants to be taken seriously. He needs to be taken seriously. This interview matters more than he lets on. The opening banter flows smoothly enough. Laughs land. The audience responds. Tom talks about filming, about exhaustion, about the challenge of stepping outside a franchise that defined him. He's polished, respectful, charming. Everything the media-trained version of Tom Holland is supposed to be. But Whoopi hasn't jumped in yet. She watches, listens, lets the others soften him up. Then she leans forward slightly, resting her forearms on the table. So, Whoopi says, her voice calm but unmistakably firm, you've been very open lately about wanting to change how people see you. Tom nods quickly. Yeah, absolutely. I think as an actor, it's important to keep growing, to challenge. And to be respected, Whoopi adds, cutting in smoothly. There's a faint ripple through the audience. Not laughter. Recognition. Tom hesitates for half a beat. Yes. I mean, of course. Every actor wants that. Whoopi tilts her head, studying him. Respect doesn't always come from wanting it. Sometimes it comes from listening. The room shifts. The co-hosts exchange glances. Tom's smile tightens just slightly. I agree, he says carefully. I've learned a lot over the years. Have you? Whoopi asks. The question lands heavier than it should. Tom blinks. I'd like to think so. Whoopi nods slowly, as if weighing that answer. Because there's been some talk, she continues, about comments you've made about roles, about the industry, about how hard it is for young men in Hollywood right now. A murmur moves through the audience. Tom feels his chest tighten. He knows exactly what she's referring to. The interviews. The headlines. The think pieces that spiraled out of control. I think sometimes things get taken out of context, Tom says, choosing his words like stepping stones across thin ice. Whoopi doesn't smile this time. Context matters, she says. But so does awareness. The silence stretches. Tom shifts in his seat. He can feel the cameras zooming in, catching every flicker of uncertainty. He's no longer in control of the rhythm. This isn't the playful back and forth he expected. You're incredibly talented, Whoopi continues. No one's denying that. But when you talk about struggle, about hardship, people hear that differently depending on where they're sitting. Sunny leans in slightly now, sensing the tension. Especially when so many actors don't have the safety net you had. Tom's jaw tightens. Not defensively, at least not intentionally, but instinctively. I've never said I didn't have privilege, he replies. I'm grateful every day for the opportunities I've had. Whoopi raises an eyebrow. Gratitude is good. Humility is better. A sharp inhale from somewhere in the audience. Tom feels heat rise to his face. He wasn't prepared for this. Not like this. His publicist had told him this would be a friendly stop. Daytime TV. Light conversation. Maybe a clip. Maybe a laugh. Instead, it feels like a quiet interrogation wrapped in velvet. I'm always trying to learn, Tom says, his voice softer now. I'm still young. I make mistakes. Whoopi nods once. We all do. The question is, what do you do after? The camera cuts briefly to Joy Behar, who looks torn between jumping in and staying out of it. Sarah Haynes presses her lips together, eyes flicking between Tom and Whoopi. Tom opens his mouth, then closes it again. For the first time, he doesn't have a rehearsed answer ready. Inside his head, thoughts collide. Say the right thing. Don't sound defensive. Don't look small. Don't look arrogant. I listen, he finally says. At least I try to. Whoopi leans back in her chair now, crossing her arms. Trying isn't the same as hearing. The studio feels colder somehow. Tom forces a nod, but the sting is unmistakable. He hadn't expected Whoopi Goldberg, someone he grew up watching, respecting, to challenge him so directly. And yet, there's something in her tone that isn't cruel. It's disappointed, that somehow hurts more. The audience claps, uncertainly at first, then louder. Not for Tom. For the moment. Tom swallows. His smile doesn't return. And as the applause fades, one thing becomes painfully clear. This interview is no longer about a movie. It's about him. The applause dies down, but the tension doesn't leave with it. It lingers in the studio like static after a lightning strike, felt more than heard. Tom Holland shifts again in his chair, aware now of how exposed he looks under the lights. This isn't a red carpet. There's no place to retreat, no handler to step in, no cut to commercial just yet. Whoopi's gaze stays on him, steady and unreadable. Tom clears his throat. I never want to come across as ungrateful, he says, the words careful, almost fragile. If I did, then I'm sorry. That was never my intention. Alyssa Farah Griffin finally jumps in, her tone gentler, trying to ease the pressure. I think what Tom's saying is that transitioning from one kind of role to another can be emotionally challenging, especially when the public has a fixed image of you. Tom nods quickly, grateful for the lifeline. Exactly. That's all I meant. But Whoopi doesn't let the moment slip away. Here's the thing, she says, turning slightly toward Alyssa, but keeping Tom firmly in her peripheral vision. A lot of people transition without anyone asking them how hard it is. They just do it. The audience reacts again, soft murmurs, a few claps, a few uncomfortable laughs. Tom feels the weight of every eye in the room. He tries to keep his expression open, receptive, but his shoulders tense despite himself. This isn't hostility. It's something more precise. Sharper. Sunny leans forward, her voice calm but pointed. Tom, when you talk about stepping away from a role that made you millions and gave you global recognition, some viewers hear that and think, that must be nice to have that choice. Tom exhales slowly. I understand that. Truly. And I don't take it lightly. Whoopi tilts her head again, that same assessing look. But do you feel it? The question lands harder than any accusation. Tom pauses. The cameras close in, catching the hesitation, the brief flicker of uncertainty that passes over his face before he schools it into composure. He can almost hear the social media commentary forming in real time. I think I'm learning to, he says honestly. That honesty cracks something open, but it also invites more pressure. Learning implies you didn't before, Whoopi replies. Tom nods. That's fair. Joy Behar finally breaks her silence, half joking but edged with seriousness. Welcome to being called out on daytime television. It's a rite of passage. The audience laughs, relieved by the release, but the laughter doesn't erase what's already been said. Tom forces a small smile. I guess I've officially made it. But Whoopi doesn't laugh. She leans in again, voice lower now, more intimate. This isn't about calling you out for sport. It's about responsibility. You've got a massive platform. People listen to you. Kids listen to you. That hits. Tom's smile fades completely. I know, he says quietly. And that matters to me more than anything. Then use it with care, Whoopi says. Because intention doesn't always equal impact. The studio goes still. Even the hosts seem to sense that this is the heart of it. This isn't confrontation for drama's sake. This is a lesson unfolding live, unscripted. Tom nods again, slower this time. You're right. It's the simplest answer he's given so far. And somehow the hardest. For a brief moment, it feels like the tension might finally ease. The conversation might pivot, move on to safer ground. But the damage, or the revelation, depending on how you see it, has already been done. Sarah Haynes tries to shift gears. Your film deals with identity and expectation, right? It's interesting how that mirrors what we're talking about here. Tom latches onto that. Yeah, that's actually why I connected to it so deeply. As he explains the character, his voice steadies. He talks about pressure, about being seen one way when you feel another inside. The audience listens closely now, not just as fans, but as witnesses. And yet, every sentence feels layered, double-edged. Whoopi listens without interrupting this time. Her expression softens, just a little, but her eyes remain sharp. When Tom finishes, there's a pause. See, Whoopi says finally, that right there? That's honest. That's real. That's different from complaining. Tom swallows. I never meant to complain. I know, Whoopi replies. But sometimes that's how it sounds. Another ripple through the crowd. Tom nods again, accepting it. But inside, something twists. He can feel the imbalance of the exchange. He's the one being examined. The one under the microscope. The cameras catch his hands now, clasped tightly together in his lap. Joy glances at the clock, sensing time slipping away. Well, this certainly took a turn. The audience laughs again, louder this time, but it's nervous laughter. Tom lets out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. I appreciate being challenged, he says. Even if it's uncomfortable. Whoopi meets his eyes. Growth usually is. There's a beat. Then applause, stronger, more unified. But as the clapping fills the studio, Tom can't shake the feeling that this moment will follow him long after the lights go out. That every word will be replayed, dissected, debated. He glances toward the audience, seeing faces that are no longer just adoring. They're thoughtful, questioning, and somewhere between the applause and the cameras pulling back, Tom realizes this wasn't just an interview. It was a turning point. The kind you don't see coming until you're already standing in the middle of it. The conversation moves forward on paper, but emotionally, it circles back on itself. Tom can feel it. Every answer now carries the weight of what's already been said. There's no reset button, no clean slate, just momentum. The host introduces a short clip from Tom's latest film. The screen behind them flickers to life, dark lighting, intense music, Tom's face on screen twisted with conflict. The audience watches closely. Some lean forward. Some glance back at the real Tom sitting just a few feet away, as if measuring the distance between the character and the man. When the clip ends, applause fills the studio again, this time genuine and appreciative. That was powerful, Sarah says. You really disappeared into that role. Thank you, Tom replies, relief washing over his voice for the first time in minutes. But even this praise doesn't fully untangle the tension. It only reframes it. Sunny folds her hands. Do you think roles like this help people see you differently? Tom hesitates. The question feels loaded now, even though it shouldn't. I hope so, he says. But I also know it's not something I can force. Whoopi nods slowly. Good answer. It sounds like approval, but not absolution. Tom allows himself a small breath. His shoulders drop just a fraction. Maybe they're moving on. Maybe the worst of it has passed. Then Whoopi speaks again. Can I ask you something directly? She says. Tom's stomach tightens. Of course. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't lean in. She just asks it plainly. Do you feel pressure to outgrow the version of yourself that people love? The question hits deeper than anything before it. Tom blinks, caught off guard. The room seems to contract around him. He glances briefly toward the audience, then back to the table. Yes, he admits. All the time. There it is. Not rehearsed. Not polished. Just truth. You don't get to decide when the world lets you grow, Whoopi says gently. Sometimes you have to grow anyway. Tom nods, eyes lowering. That's been hard. Joy raises an eyebrow. Now that I believe. The audience laughs softly, but it's a laugh edged with empathy now, not discomfort. Tom smiles faintly. Yeah, for the first time since the confrontation began, the energy shifts, not away from intensity, but toward understanding. The conflict isn't gone, but it's transformed. Less sharp, more human. Still, the cameras don't miss what's happening beneath the surface. Tom's voice is steadier but quieter, more reflective. The charm has been replaced by something rawer. People think confidence means having all the answers, Tom continues, warming to the honesty. But sometimes it's just standing there and admitting you don't. Whoopi watches him closely. This time, there's no challenge in her expression. Only consideration. That's true, she says. But when you speak, people assume you do have the answers. That's the responsibility part. Tom meets her gaze. I understand that better now than I did before. Sunny nods. This feels like one of those moments people are going to talk about. The audience murmurs in agreement. Tom lets out a breathless laugh. I had a feeling. Joy smirks. Welcome to the view. More laughter, but it doesn't break the spell. Everyone knows this exchange is already bigger than the room. As the segment nears its end, the host begins to wrap things up. Final thoughts. Final questions. the safe landing zone of television. But Tom isn't quite ready to leave it there. I just want to say, he adds, turning slightly toward Whoopi, I appreciate you being honest with me, even when it's uncomfortable. Whoopi holds his gaze. There's a long pause, long enough for the audience to hold its breath. Good, she says finally, because discomfort is where listening starts. Applause rises again, louder this time. Stronger. Not celebratory, but respectful. Tom nods, emotion flickering across his face before he reins it in. I'll remember that. The cameras pull back. Smiles return, at least on the surface. The segment ends the way it's supposed to. But the moment doesn't end. Because as Tom stands, shakes hands, waves to the audience, he can already feel it, the shift. The invisible line he crossed without realizing it was there. Backstage, the applause fades. The lights dim. The chatter of the studio gives way to the hum of production equipment and hurried footsteps. Tom exhales deeply, running a hand through his hair. His team waits nearby, their expressions tight, unreadable. No one says anything right away. They don't need to. Everyone knows what just happened. Out on the internet, clips are already being cut. Quotes are already being isolated. Opinions are already forming. And somewhere between the studio floor and the outside world, Tom Holland's image has just cracked open, inviting praise, criticism, and debate in equal measure. The question now isn't what was said on The View. It's what happens next. The aftermath doesn't wait for permission. By the time Tom's car pulls away from the studio, his phone is already vibrating nonstop beside him. Missed calls. Messages stacking on top of each other. His publicist glances down at her own screen, then back up at him, trying and failing to hide the concern in her eyes. It's trending, she finally says. Tom nods slowly, staring out the window as New York blurs past. He doesn't ask where. He doesn't need to. Inside the car, the silence is heavy. Not awkward. Reflective. The kind that comes after something irreversible. Clips from The View spread like wildfire. Not the movie promo. Not the jokes. Not the smiles. It's the pauses people latch onto. The moments where Tom doesn't answer right away. Whoopi's steady gaze. That one line. Trying isn't the same as hearing. Twitter ignites first. Then Instagram. Then TikTok. Some clips are framed like a reckoning. Some like a takedown. Some like a masterclass in accountability. Headlines race to keep up. Whoopi Goldberg checks Tom Holland on live TV. Tom Holland faces hard truths on The View. Awkward or necessary. Fans divided after tense interview. Fans argue in the comments like they're defending a friend or confronting one. Some praise Tom for staying calm, for listening, for not walking out. Others say he looked unprepared, exposed, humbled in a way they didn't expect. And then there are the think pieces. Long threads analyzing power, privilege, youth, celebrity responsibility. Clips slowed down. Facial expressions dissected frame by frame. Whoopi is hailed by some as fearless, criticized by others as too harsh. Tom is defended as sincere, dismissed as sheltered. There is no single narrative. That's the problem. And the point. That night, Tom sits alone in his hotel room, jacket draped over a chair, tie loosened, phone face down on the table. He finally picks it up, not to scroll, but to breathe. He knows if he dives in now, it'll swallow him whole. Instead, he opens a notes app. He stares at the blank screen for a long time. Across the city, Whoopi Goldberg is also asked about it. Producers call. Friends text. She's seen this before, moments that look like confrontation but feel, to her, like conversation overdue. When asked later if she regrets how direct she was, she answers calmly. No, she says, because silence doesn't help people grow. That quote travels almost as fast as the clips. The next day, talk shows weigh in. Podcasts debate tone versus intent. Comment sections become battlegrounds of empathy and outrage. And somewhere in the noise, something rare happens. People listen. Not all of them. Not perfectly. But more than usual. Tom breaks his silence with a short statement. Not an apology tour. Not a defense. Just a reflection. I'm still learning, it reads. And I'm listening. It's simple. It's human. And it doesn't end the debate, but it shifts it. Weeks later, the moment still lingers. The interview becomes a reference point. A clip that resurfaces whenever celebrity accountability is discussed. A reminder that even the most polished personas can be caught off guard by honesty. For some viewers, it's uncomfortable. For others, it's refreshing. For Tom, it's formative. Because not every confrontation ends with raised voices or slammed doors. Some end with a pause, a look, a sentence that stays with you long after the cameras stop rolling. And for the audience watching at home, it raises a question that doesn't fade with the headlines. Was it awkward, or was it necessary? Now it's your turn. What do you think? Did Whoopi go too far, or did Tom need to hear it? Was this a public ambush, or a rare moment of real talk on daytime TV? Drop your opinion in the comments. Let's talk about it. And if you want more explosive, cinematic stories that pull you right inside the moment, celebrity clashes, shocking interviews, and the drama behind the headlines, subscribe to Stage View right now. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who loves celebrity deep dives, and stay tuned. Because on Stage View, the real story always starts when the cameras get uncomfortable.